U.S. Space Force just approved something that left even NASA stunned. 76 Starship launches per year from Florida alone. That's over 3 times what SpaceX is currently allowed at their Texas facility. When you add everything together, we're looking at 145 total Starship launches annually. Can you wrap your head around what that means? Nearly 3 full-stack Starship missions launching every single week. How does this level of rapid reusability even work in practice? Let's dive right in. So what exactly did SpaceX get approved for? The numbers are staggering. Space Launch Complex 37 in Florida, that's where 76 Starship launches will happen annually. But here's what makes this even more remarkable. These aren't just launches. Every single one includes full vehicle catches, both the Super Heavy booster and the Starship upper stage. Plus, all 76 static fire tests for those vehicles are greenlit too. Think about what that means operationally. You're not just launching rockets, you're catching them, refurbishing them, and turning them around faster than anyone thought possible. Now let's break down the math that shocked the industry. Florida's getting 44 launches per year at Pad 39. Texas keeps their current 25 annual launches. Add them together and you hit that magic number. 145 Starship missions every single year. That's a launch every 2.5 days on average. When has humanity ever achieved anything close to that with a vehicle this powerful? But approvals are one thing. Actually building the infrastructure to support this cadence? That's where things get really interesting. The site layout SpaceX submitted shows 2 complete launch towers at SLC 37. They're positioned as far apart as physically possible on that property. Smart move when you're dealing with vehicles carrying thousands of tons of cryogenic propellants. Each tower gets its own water deluge system, absolutely critical for protecting the pad during those intense launches and catches. What caught my attention, though, is how they're setting up the support facilities. Unlike having separate systems for each pad, SpaceX is building one shared cryogenic storage site, one shared pump farm. Why does this matter? Efficiency. When you're launching every few days, you can't waste time or resources duplicating infrastructure. You need systems that can rapidly supply multiple pads without bottlenecks. Here's where it gets fascinating from an engineering standpoint. The plans include natural gas lines running to the site. There's a methane liquefier being installed. And check this out. They're putting in a massive air separation unit just south of the main launch complex. What does all that equipment tell you? SpaceX isn't just building launch pads. They're creating a facility that can generate nearly all its own propellants on site. Liquid oxygen from the air separation unit, methane from the liquefier using natural gas. How many launch sites in the world can claim that level of self-sufficiency? The construction timeline is moving faster than most people realize. Satellite imagery shows the site transformation is already well underway. All the old Delta IV heavy infrastructure, gone. Those massive ramps that used to help send America's heaviest rockets to orbit, gone, demolished, and cleared away. SpaceX is literally erasing decades of traditional launch architecture to build something completely different. This approval gives SpaceX something they desperately needed: certainty. For months, maybe years, they've been developing Starship knowing they'd eventually need more launch capacity. But you can't invest hundreds of millions into facilities without regulatory approval. Now that Greenlight is here, full steam ahead on construction. No more waiting, no more uncertainty about whether they'll get permission to build what they need. But let's zoom out for a second and consider what 145 launches per year actually means for the space industry. Right now, the entire world launches maybe 200 to 220 rockets annually across all providers. SpaceX alone is planning to nearly match that with just Starship. One vehicle system, one company. Does that fundamentally reshape how we think about access to space? The logistics alone are mind-bending. Every launch needs propellant, thousands of tons of it. Every catch requires precision systems working flawlessly. Every vehicle turnaround demands inspection teams, refurbishment crews, and integration specialists. Where do you even find enough qualified personnel to support that tempo? SpaceX is going to need an army of engineers, technicians, and operators working around the clock. And we haven't even talked about what they're launching. At this cadence, you're not just doing test flights anymore. You're deploying Starlink satellites by the thousands. You're flying cargo missions. Eventually, you're flying people. NASA's watching this closely because their Artemis program depends on Starship working. The moon missions, the Mars ambitions, all of it hinges on SpaceX proving they can operate at this kind of frequency. The really wild part? This is just the beginning. These numbers represent current approvals. What happens when SpaceX proves the system works? When they demonstrate they can safely catch and refly boosters with 24-hour turnarounds? Do those numbers go up? Does the industry standard for launch cadence completely shift? China's paying attention too. We saw Landspace attempt their first booster landing this week with the Zhuge 3. They nearly nailed it on the first try. The competition is heating up globally, but nobody's talking about 145 launches per year except SpaceX. That's not just leading the industry, that's redefining what's physically possible. This approval represents more than regulatory paperwork. It's a signal that government agencies believe in SpaceX's vision. The U.S. Space Force, the FAA, environmental agencies, they've all reviewed the plans and said yes, not to 10 launches, not to 20, to 76 launches from one facility, with the understanding that rapid reusability at this scale is actually achievable. So here's what we're really looking at. SpaceX didn't just get permission to launch more rockets. They got approval to fundamentally transform how humanity accesses space. When you can launch almost 3 times every week, space stops being this distant frontier that only nations can reach. It becomes accessible. It becomes routine. That's the shift happening right in front of us. And this is happening now, not in some distant future. The construction crews are already clearing sites in Florida. The towers will rise. The propellant systems will come online. Within the next few years, we could genuinely be watching Starship launches as casually as we track Falcon 9 missions today. Does that change everything about our relationship with space? Absolutely. NASA saw these numbers and understood what it means for Artemis, for lunar missions, for Mars ambitions. When your launch provider can fly this frequently, your entire mission planning changes. You're not limited by launch windows anymore. You're limited only by how fast you can build payloads. The 145 launches per year that shocked NASA isn't just a number. It's a declaration that the space age we've been promised for decades is finally arriving. What do you think happens when this cadence becomes reality? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If this kind of space industry coverage gets you fired up, smash that like button and subscribe to Space Update 24 Hours. We're tracking every development as SpaceX pushes these boundaries. Don't miss what's coming next.